Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! In today's video, I'm going to answer two massive questions the My Hero Academia community has regarding One For All. A lot of people have been asking why did All Might not receive 6 other quirks like Deku will by mastering the quirk as he did? Is it just plot convenience? How come other users didn't get to use the different quirks just like Midoriya if all the quirks are within One For All? Another question I'm going to answer is how Deku will actually unlock the other quirks. What does he have to do to manifest them like he did with Black Whip and unlock the second quirk? Yes, you heard that right. I'm using balls deep prediction magic.
Bro, it's Quirk. You got the wrong video.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Quirk! So we all know within chapter 257, All Might explains to Deku that the next quirk he will unlock is Float. Now I asked the Anime Balls Deep community on Discord, Instagram and Twitter as to how does All Might know the exact information on why Float is specifically the next quirk out of the 5 others that Deku can get. I mean, this dude didn't even know how One For All worked exactly, and he had to research it for months to give Deku this information. How come All Might specifically knows it's Float next? Did that cross your mind? Our community just came to the conclusion that, you know, it's just plot convenience and
we don't care.
But before I can dive deep, I'd like to introduce our Deku merch. Yes! Due to popular demand, we finally created something for you guys. And I think this looks fire! If I do say so myself. For the launch, we are doing 15% off with code Deku on the short for 1 week. I hope you can support us financially so we can keep producing these videos. And those of you that buy, if you want a shout out in a video, please message us on Instagram or Twitter or Discord and we'll retweet you and let you know. Everyone that tells us that they bought the merch gets recognized just like these guys. Thank you. Let's answer the first question regarding All Might, Nana and the other One For All users not using the different quirks. Although the answer is spread throughout the My Hero Academia manga, chapter 213 goes into detail. We all know that All Might, as Deku sensei, explained to him how One For All works with all the knowledge that he possessed. However, we also have to remember that it was limited because he didn't know there were 6 other quirks residing within One For All and what they are specifically. However, he did mention to Deku that even he saw vestiges when he was younger whilst using the quirk. That's why he wasn't overly shocked when Deku mentioned he feels the presence of other people living within him. Now, All Might mostly explained the concept of its power that revolves around the stockpiling quirk. The first user received this from his brother, who is All For One, as this is the original quirk that combined with a power that they didn't even know he had, as initially they presumed the first One For All user was actually quirkless, but he actually did have a quirk which was to pass on his power. This merged with the stockpiling quirk, creating One For All. So essentially, this original power of One For All is the quirk that all users end up using for its raw power. This quirk also enhances any other power that is mixed with it. For example, the Black Whip that Deku manifested is much more powerful than it was before, since every time One For All is passed on, the power is stockpiled, which amplifies it even further. The 5th user, Degato Banjo, confirmed this himself when speaking to Deku that the Black Whip has become stronger than when he utilized it himself. The reason why All Might and the other users cannot use the other quirks unlike Deku is because they did not pass the singularity, much like what the Doctor mentioned in his theory to All For One and the world. The difference is that All For One believed in this theory, but the Doctor was shunned from society. In chapter 213, we learn how One For All has stored all of the previous quirks through their different emotions. That One For All is growing. This goes back to the singularity the first user mentioned in chapter 193 and which the Doctor was ridiculed for in chapter 246. This theory states that with each passing generation, quirks become more mixed and more complex, making them more powerful as more numbers are added. Though the memory expands faster and faster, the hardware doesn't evolve evolve as quickly enough to keep up. This is the concept of singularity, where quirks will be so powerful each generation that they will be uncontrollable. Eddie and One for All is a perfect example of the Doctor's theory being true. We can use this same singularity concept on All Might. Even though All Might had One for All, he hadn't reached the singularity. The generation after him, which is Midoriya's generation, had likely reached this state, as we all see those kids fighting Bakugo and the gang during the provisional license exam, where they are just small guys but their quirk seems to far exceed these grown-up heroes. They're much more powerful and have more potential. So the reason why All Might could not use the other quirks is because the fifth user explains that their quirk factors were mixed into the core of One for All. They have been inside it the whole time, however it was only a tiny core at first. The core needed time to build up as the flame of its will was increasing each and every time the quirk of One for All was passed on. It was growing in power and evolving just like the singularity theory. As a result, when Deku received the quirk, the core has gotten larger and it got kick-started by the flames to allow him to access their powers while he masters One for All ever so surely. In chapter 193, the first user of One for All confirmed in his meeting with Deku that he has passed the singularity after achieving 20%. He can now master all the other quirks with time and training as the percentages goes up. All Might even mentions how with the other users and himself, it wasn't their destiny to defeat All for One, as he mentioned this in chapter 257. They all knew that they had to pass on the will for the future generation to survive. He himself must have felt this to pass it on to Deku, because One for All has a will and we know this for a fact. In my other videos, I have confirmed already that One for All is a quirk that is sentient and has a will. If you didn't know this, you can learn this in the video being displayed to you right now, and it will be in the pinned comment. But anyway, All Might stated in My Hero Academia Vigilante chapter 255 page 7, I'm quoting this like it's the Bible, god damn, but he explained that he feels a pushing force from the quirk that urges him to save those people in need. This is a similar concept to All for One that Shigaraki received, as he feels a will from the quirk as well to steal One for All from Deku. Both One for All and All for One are analogous to each other. The relationship between the two quirks is much deeper than they know. In chapter 213, Deku states when seeing the fifth user, I can see him so clearly. He's definitely more than just some vestige, and it's not a dream. I think the predecessors are somehow alive in One for All. So this now explains why the original All for One can also appear in Shigaraki's consciousness in chapter 275, because both quirks are linked and work in a similar manner. Shigaraki even mentions a similar notion that All for One looks just like Kurogiri. Basically, his spirit, feelings and memories are all residing within the quirk, and we know that he has passed on his will just like his brother did with One for All. An interesting notion is that since this is confirmed, that means All for One mentioning that he can hear his brother's voice in the Tartarus prison in chapter 209, it makes sense. Both of them are somewhat alive in their respective quirks and will interact in the future as Deku and Shigaraki both clash in the war. Essentially, what we have explained so far enhances our theory regarding All for One's plan with Shigaraki. There is a massive theory within our community on how My Hero Academia will end and how the relationship between the two quirks is so important regarding the fate of the world. We have used balls deep prediction quirk in a 3-part series which will break it down everything for you part by part in detail. I highly suggest for you to watch this whole series in the pinned comment, because a lot of you said when you watched it that it actually blew your mind. Also, I'd appreciate it if you can smash the like button to this video and the notification button for the channel, because we cover My Hero Academia on a weekly basis. We also have a Reddit which you can post on and you'll be recognized as we do Reddit videos, and I hope we can build this community for a better future and we can all have fun and memes all over the place. Okay, so now let's talk about how Deku will eventually unlock the other quirks, as this will give us an idea on why All Might never unlocked them. The first ever quirk Deku unlocked, which is part of of One For All was Black Whip in chapter 210. There are a few reasons why Deku unlocked Black Whip. It was partly because of his training, his guidance from the past users, and also his emotions. First, let me focus on his training and power. By chapter 210, when Deku unlocked Black Whip, he had managed to control 20% of One For All's power. And in chapter 215, Deku says that this power is waiting for me down the road. Once I have got total mastery over One For All, only then can I really start using it. In this chapter, Deku is essentially telling us that as he masters One For All, he will slowly start to unlock all the other 6 quirks of the previous users. At 20%, Deku barely could handle Black Whip, but he ends up mastering it at chapter 256. After a 3-month time skip, the recent chapters has shown Deku mastering 30% of One For All, but he can release 45% of his power, and even before then, he was able to hold it for at least 1 second, as we saw in chapter 256. So he can probably use it for a lot longer now. So basic maths tells me that since Deku can unlock Black Whip at 20%, at 30% it means he is ready to unlock the next power. And remember, in chapter 257, All Might said that the next quirk Deku will unlock will be his master's quirk Nana Shimura, Float. This will likely occur to counter Shigaraki's decay, and I go into further detail with this idea of a video. Go check it out, it will be in the pinned comment too. I think I've said that like 4 times this video, but seriously, I don't want to keep repeating myself, and you know, because the content's out there, guys. Bruh. Furthermore, another factor for Deku unlocking his quirks is for him to be able to control his heart. By this, I mean his emotions. The former user of Black Whip shows himself to Deku in chapter 213, right after Deku uses his quirk. Daigoro Banjo comes in and instructs him on what just happened. Banjo tells him that when Deku uses Black Whip, it gets a buff through anger. The quirk uses anger as a fuel source to be amplified, but he tells him that Deku can't control it yet since he doesn't have his emotions in check. This tells us that each quirk has an emotion attached to them which triggers them, and I just explained earlier in the video that the manga already explained to us that One For All resides all the emotions and memories of the users in the quirk, and that's why Deku can see them or experience it. Now in psychology, there are 6 basic emotions: happiness, sadness, surprise, anger, disgust, and fear. This could be linked to the emotions that got recorded in memory of One For All for the quirks that Deku has to unlock. We just confirmed that the 5th user said anger is needed to fuel Black Whip, and there are 6 emotions and 6 quirks. It would make total sense for all of this to be linked.
Shit! Yes. This goes deep!
As the 5th user explained, Deku felt angry and an intense feeling to capture someone, which was the original purpose of Black Whip. This means to unlock a quirk, Deku has to feel, experience, and utilize the said quirk of the previous user in the same manner. So for Nana's quirk Float, Deku would have to be in a similar scenario which she utilized that quirk for. We know it was mostly used to save people, as she used Float on All Might to make sure he is safe before she went to fight All For One and died. So the feelings she must have recorded in One For All must be happiness or something else, as she was the symbol of peace and told All Might to smile all the time for the public, as this is what it means to be the symbol and hero. Nana's smile and personification of this image was also a photo that Shigaraki witnessed as a kid, and he gravitated towards that smile and her, which caused him to initially have a dream of wanting to be a hero just like Deku. But as we all know, he had an abusive father, and All For One manipulated his life to become evil. Therefore, One For All and All For One having this analogous relationship, and please do remember that you have to watch my end series because this will explain this relationship in detail as to what it means. But as we already saw, Nana is a vestige within Shigaraki's All For One memories too in chapter 275. It's pretty obvious that this will cause a chain reaction within the 2 quirks eventually between Shigaraki versus Deku for everyone to have some sort of interaction. Nana Shimura's float quirk could be fueled by happiness or positivity, as floating is similar to the feeling of lightness. And when you're happy, you are at peace and free like a bird flying through the sky, right?
Of course!
Now with the situation we see in the war currently, Shigaraki has destroyed the whole city with a single touch and is facing the heroes to become the symbol of terror on camera for the whole world to see. Deku is in a similar situation as Nana was if if you look at her past. So he will be able to unlock the quirk of float by harnessing his emotions and learning more about it. Let's say Shigaraki fulfills the prophecy from the comic books All For One read with his brother and told his brother that he will fulfill it and make it a reality, that he will become the Demon King. That means Deku could have to use this quirk to save everyone and control his emotions. Deku would have to smile and take another step towards becoming the symbol of peace, even though there is great destruction around him after this fight. In conclusion, if Deku wants to unlock the other quirks, the 4th, 5th and 6th quirks, he needs to essentially learn about the emotions, experience and intentions of those said people to get them. Anyway guys, that's the secret to how Deku can unlock the other quirks. I hope you have learned something new. Please smash the like button, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, or join the Discord if you want to. I really hope you can help us out here. Don't forget about the Deku merch. There's 15% off if you use the code Deku. Thank you and see ya.